Hey, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Calacino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And I come to you typically every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. with a free card making class. Sometimes we do other types of crafts. And during my 12 Days of Christmas series, which is what I'm doing now, I bring to you not so much cards, although sometimes a few of them. We have done some already, but things that you can use as small gifts. Now, tonight I'll admit I'm doing something a little bit different. It's something that I kind of have a passion about, and I don't know how many of you are interested, to be quite honest. I've had a YouTube channel that I don't talk about too much for years about this other hobby that I have besides just making cards and those types of things. And I sometimes like to meld the two. It's not always super popular with some of the people in my classes because they kind of prefer to do different things. I don't know how to explain it, but when you see it, I think you'll understand. So I make journals, but I also sometimes like to make what I call a shabby chic card. So a card that's made using some vintage materials or vintage look materials, or a card that has something on front of it that can be a tag, but I sometimes call a cluster. And I also have something that I make called a snippet roll, and I couldn't find one today, and I have a feeling I brought it to Florida last year, and something came up while I was in Florida last year that prevented me from bringing some of my stuff home for me. There wasn't enough room in my car, so I couldn't bring all of my things home. So I think the cluster or the snippet rolls got left there, and they're kind of hard to explain without showing them to you, so I'll see if I can find one. If not, you're going to have to wait till I go to Florida to see what one looks like. All right, so I'll do my best to kind of explain this to you. Let me put the camera down so we can get started. Basically, we are making a Christmas card, and you can do it the way I'm doing it or not do it the way I'm doing it. Either way, whichever makes you happy, okay? You always have to do what makes you happy, as long as it's legal. Maybe I should add that. Okay, let me turn the camera down, move it a little this way. Move that a little that way. Okay, looks good. So this is day 10 of the 12 days of Christmas. So we have 2 more days, right? Yeah, we have 2 more days. We have, oh, wait a minute. We don't. We have, yes, we have 2 more days because 10 plus 2 is 12. Yes, we have 2 more days, December 1st and December 2nd. So today is the last day of November. This month really got away from me. Sometimes I still think it's October. I'll just throw out there too, if you do make a purchase tonight, which is probably not likely, but if you do, make sure that you use this host code. Tomorrow there will be a new host code. All right, so first of all, maybe it would help, and maybe not, but maybe it would help if I pulled out one of my journals to show you. So this is a journal that I made using the designer series paper from the something elegant sweet. What the heck's it called? I hate when I can't remember that stuff. But now with a new catalog coming out, I feel like I have to forget the old stuff and remember the new. Yeah, I don't think I have my catalog right here. But anyway, and it is very elegant. This paper is beautiful, and it all has the gold foiling on it. It comes in a package with similar papers in both the Lost Lagoon, in Cherry Cobbler, in Old Olive, in Real Red, and maybe that's all. Maybe that's it. I can't remember. So this journal measures, this journal measures 8.5 by 5 1/4, basically. Okay. So very often my journal, this is a piece of Stampin' Up! Paper. I think this is actually, oh, you know what? This is Pretty Peacock, and that's the other color that this comes in, but this might be the Pretty Peacock, not the Lost Lagoon. Anyway, for this journal cover, I literally just used a piece of the Stampin' Up! Cardstock folded in half. So obviously we know it's going to be, what did I say? It's going to be, the whole thing is 8.5 by 11, so we know it's going to be 5.5 this way, and we know that it's going to be 8.5 this way. Okay, so I just used that for the cover, but I did use the cardstock, and then I adhered the designer series paper to it. So it's a pretty thick cover, all right? And I like to coffee dye and tea dye my pages. And I don't even know if you can really see this. I keep forgetting to turn this one light on. I swear I think I should just put it on a timer so it turns on automatically. There we go. That's a little bit better. So coffee and tea dyeing the paper means that I take the paper and I soak it in some coffee or some tea. In this case, and then I bake it. When I put it in the oven to bake it, I put a doily on top of it. And so the design or the image of the doily comes out on the paper. And I just love that look. So this is what's called a one signature journal, which means it's just got one of these. So if you read a book, almost any book, even if it's not hand sewn like this one is, you can see that there are little packets, so to speak, of pages. And those are called signatures, okay? So this is a one signature journal, which makes it much easier to put together. Sometimes I put a pocket in the front, and some of the pages come out darker than others. This is what they bring the silverware and the napkin to your table in Parker's here in Newark. And everybody knows now if I go out with other people or we have a meeting at Parker's, everybody hands me their little fork and knife and spoon things because I use those for pockets as well. And then I usually add a paper clip of some kind. Sometimes I decorate it, sometimes not. And some tags that I can write things on. This one is not particularly grungy, and this one, so here's some more of that paper, and that's basic beige. Sometimes I put papers in different sizes. This one here, I used the, oh my gosh, Peaceful Trees. Is it Peaceful Trees? Peaceful something. Oh my gosh, I can't remember a thing. Stamps. We were just working with those trees recently, I think. And here is a little pocket, but it's also sort of a flap. And, I could go on. Here's another pocket with a designer series paper. And this was going to be my journal that I call a December daily. So every year I do a December daily, and I start writing in it usually on the first day of December, sometimes a little bit sooner. And I will put in things here like if I have ideas for gifts for family members, and I have little printable things that I print off that might be like a shopping list or whatever. I will put in ideas for dinner because December 1st, I still maybe don't know what I'm having for dinner, but usually by the 10th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in there, I know what I'm having for dinner. If I see recipes online that I'd like to try, I print them out. If I take photographs of things, they go in here. So it's a record of everything that I do in the month of December. So it might be my regular daily stuff, like a meeting that I had, or it might be having to do with the holidays or whatever. This year's kind of interesting for me because Hanukkah starts on December 25th. So I've got two holidays going at the same time. So that will be kind of interesting. Anyway, the reason I'm showing you the journal, like I said, this one doesn't have a lot in it in the way of stamping, is that I decided that I'm going to take this journal on my trip to Ireland with me because it just didn't make sense to have two different journals in the month of December, one just for the trip and one for this. So I'm rolling them all into one. Plus, I may do some Christmas shopping in Ireland. Excuse me. And typically I decorate the cover and I do a lot of embellishing on the inside, but since I've decided that I'm going to travel with this and it's going to be in my bag, and this is the largest journal I've ever traveled with. Normally I travel with what's called a TN or travel notebook size, which is much thinner, and that's what my last journal for Ireland was for. So it'll be bigger. So again, what I'm getting at here is that some of the things that I use to embellish a journal cover inside a journal can also be used to embellish a card. So I am a collector of ephemera, all right? So I have things that I've printed off over the years, like this is sheet music, but I shrunk it down. So it's got Come Ye O Faithful, The First Noel, Jingle Bells, Deck the Halls. Sometimes I cut them out, sometimes I just tear them. Then I've got this, which came from Peaceful Trees. I cut that out. I thought I might use that. And then sometimes I have, when I go to garage sales or thrift stores, I buy lace. Very often I buy vintage lace. I don't think this is too terribly vintage, but I grabbed it anyway. And I grab fabric whenever I can find fabric on sale anywhere, again, sometimes at yard sales or whatever. And I thought maybe I would use this fabric. So I think you're kind of seeing already that this is not kind of the typical card, all right? The other thing that I often do with things that I'm going to be using in my journals is, let me see. So if I don't feel like cutting this, all right, but I don't exactly feel like tearing it either, then I can tear it using a ruler like this. So I'm getting a little bit of a rough edge. I have some customers that when I've done projects before where tearing is involved, they just don't want to tear paper, especially Stampin' Up's pretty DSP. I think it's just a sin to to tear their paper, but I do like the torn paper look. So I'm going to take this Jingle Bells, and I'm going to tear it out using my ruler. Now there are also rulers that are made, I do have one here, but this one's a little too wild for me. I have a whole set of them. They're made for tearing, so this one you can see is just kind of crazy. This side's not so crazy, it's just a little bumpy. Let's see if we can see the difference. I'll tear over here using this side so you can see the difference. Well, you can hear the sound of it to tell that it's different. So it's definitely a rougher tear, okay, than the regular ruler. But that's okay. For now, I'm just happy to have the other ruler. Oh, I've got strings hanging off my shirt. That's going to make me crazy. I'm going to have to get some scissors. Sorry, I completely forgot to bring my water up with me. I had a run-in with the cat earlier, is the only way I can describe it. I was trying to get into my attic. It's not really an attic. It's like a bonus room over the garage that's carpeted and insulated, and so it's not like some creepy old attic with rickety boards or anything like that. It's a regular room. But I don't let him in there because there's just so much in there that he could get into. And he was really fighting me. The usual techniques that I use don't work. And when I came out of the attic, I was carrying a bunch of stuff, and I didn't realize he had laid down. There's one step up to go into the attic. I didn't realize he had laid down right there, and when I realized he was there, it was too late. I already had sort of 1 foot in the air, and I knew there was a very good chance of my falling, and worse than that, falling on him. And I was also carrying my paper snips, which are just deadly sharp scissors, in my hand, and I didn't want either one of us tangling with those, so I literally threw them over my shoulder. They're someplace in the attic. I don't know if I'll ever see them again, but I threw them over my shoulder, managed to somehow step over him, and then tripped over something else and still managed not to fall. I don't even know how, but I was so mad, like not really so much just at him, but at the whole situation, that I was not very nice. Not very nice by the time I got out of the attic. So anyway, like I said, I collect ephemera. So sometimes I even find like an old deck of playing cards, and I use those. And every once in a while, you can actually find an old deck of playing cards that are Christmas-themed cards, and I'll use those as a piece of ephemera. And then we also have the ephemera that came in those kits that we looked at a few weeks ago. Yep, there we go. We have some stickers, and one of them, there were 2 different packs here. I think it was this one. One of them just seemed to me a little bit more vintagey looking. All right, but then I'll show you how I make it even more vintagey looking. So we also had some sentiments there that we could choose from, or we could use stamps, whatever we decided to do. So when I'm doing vintagey things, I really like to do crumb cake as a color. And I also like cherry cobbler as a color. I like it as a color for Christmas anyway. So I've got a bunch of different things here that I could use, not just one thing, okay? So, and this is still kind of big for the front of this card. It would kind of take up the whole card, whereas on a journal, it obviously would not take up so much room and it would look more appropriate there. So I might end up putting this here, I don't know. But we'll see. I could also just tear off part of it, and I do that sometimes too, and just use a piece of it, and you can't see, or I use a book page, especially if it's Christmas time. Sometimes I buy old children's Christmas books, especially ones that have been damaged, like they have water wrinkles in them or blurred pages. I found one book once where half the pages were upside down, and some of them had been put in backwards. It was a real hot mess. And they had it marked down for like a nickel or something at Goodwill. And I bought that because then I don't feel so bad tearing a book like that apart because it's a wreck anyway. You know what I mean? So I might or might not use this. I didn't grab any book pages in the attic because I couldn't find anything. And he was scratching at the door and I was getting aggravated and so on. So I'm just going to cut off a piece of this lace, and I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to cut it off. I'm thinking that I'm not going to use this because it's too big, but maybe we will. I also got some of the Traditions of St. Nick DSP out and thought I could really use either side would be okay with this. And sometimes with this I do tear it, but we're not there yet. So it's a process that I go through, especially when I'm decorating a journal, and especially if it's for someone else, because sometimes they give me some real specific ideas about what they want. Also wanted to show you real quick, you know how I'm always telling you that when you're using the photopolymer stamps, that it's better to put the stamp down here and then pick it up than to try to pick it up and place it on the block. Well, perfect example happened today. I hope you can see that. Take a look at that. That was my first attempt, and you see how this part of the lamp is wonky? It kind of curves. That's because I didn't put it down on the table first. I put it down on the block. So when I redid it, it came out perfectly straight. So I thought that was really interesting. So I just wanted to show you that is something that really can happen. So I don't know, I thought I might use that, by the way, which is why I took that. And then I did take it a step further, and I stamped this on the inside of the card. Now, the other thing that I might do, if this is the card lining here, is that it's very white, and if you're trying to do something kind of vintagey looking, very white is kind of not what you're going for. So the other thing that I can do is I can take my crumb cake ink pad. I could maybe even take the basic beige, I'm not sure. And this is another thing that sometimes people just look at me and they say, oh, don't do that, you're making it look dirty. Sometimes I tear it too. And I just go around the edges a little bit to kind of make it look old. And I could actually just do a little bit of that on the surface of the main part of the piece of paper itself. And so it's now looking like something that maybe has been sitting in the attic for a few years, or that I used an old piece of paper, and I do that too. Again, sometimes Goodwill will have these bundles of papers, and they're selling them really cheap, because I'm sure that when they price them, they're probably thinking, I don't know who's going to buy this. Who would want this? Well, I'm the person who would want that. So I appreciate it, and sometimes the papers that I buy are already yellowed in one way or another because they're so old, and they might just be like old typing paper. One of my favorite things to find is old onion skin paper. Onion skin is a type of typing paper. My mother used to use it. I don't really remember what the purpose of it was, but she did use it quite a bit. So there you go. I vintaged that up. I made it look just a little bit older. And I can absolutely do the same thing, well, I guess I'm going to need that, with the front of my card, with my card base. And again, I get that not everybody is a huge fan of this technique, but I just thought, what the heck, I'd show you. And it all started because I kind of had something else planned for tonight, and maybe we'll do it tomorrow night instead. And then when I started messing with that journal, which I made back in, I think it was September, as a display, because I was doing a product display of all things made using that suite, that elegant suite. I want to say Simply Elegant, but I don't think that's it. But like I said, it's just not coming to me at the moment. But I know the word elegant is in there somewhere. And if this does not interest you, then you just make this card or a similar card without doing this. But one of the things I wanted to show you is that in my mind, whether you're aging it or not, and I'm sure I've said this before, that layering just brings the card to another level. Whether you're layering it to make it look antique-y, or whether you're just layering it just to layer it. I feel like I have cotton mouth tonight and my words aren't coming out right. All right, so I won't overdo it there. I don't want it to look like it's been playing in the mud. All right, so there we've got that. And then this, here's another technique that some people like or don't like. I think I want to not take a super good pair of scissors to do this. But you can take your scissors and just run across it, and then all kinds of little red stuff is going to fall off, which is kind of annoying, but it does. And it just distresses it as well. And if you don't like the distressed look, then again, just don't do this part of it. Sorry for the noise. It is kind of annoying. This is another one of those noises that if I was working downstairs, like sitting in the family room watching TV, and I would do this kind of thing on the TV tray, and my daughter would be in her room, she'd holler downstairs, "What are you doing?" That, and if I was punching out lots of things over and over again, and she heard that punching sound. All right, so I bent that one by accident, that corner, while I was doing my distressing. So instead of fussing over the fact that I bent it, I'm just going to bend it some more. I'm actually going to roll it on my, around a pencil. I'm going to try to get all this red fuzz in the garbage can. There we go. And so I've given it another bit of a distressed look. So let's think about how we could build a cluster to put on top of this that would be layers. So, like I said, we could use this, but I think it's just too much, and I don't know, it's kind of pretty, so I hate to tear it up. On the other hand, it's on my computer, and I can print off more anytime. I do kind of like this as well, and I certainly could use one of my punches to cut this out, but I think that I won't. I think I'm just going to sort of tear it. I want it to be, I think, like basically a rectangle shape, but a rough rectangle shape. Now if I tear it in the other direction, away from me, like I did here, then I don't get that white spot. So if you don't want the white spot, tear it away from you. If you want the white spot, tear it towards you. But I can still take this brush that just has a little bit of the brown ink on it, but not a lot. Maybe I won't even have to ink it up again. And just go over that white so it's not so white. I could also take the Mossy Meadow, since that's what color this is, and I could put some of that on the side of it, on the edges. I don't mind seeing some of the white though. So that's a thought. That's a little something. That's a little something. These are a little something. The tree could possibly be a little something, you know, or maybe it's like getting out of hand and it's just too much. I don't know. So any combination of those things. And then these things in here would just be like a little bit cuter. I feel like I had some other things from that set, but maybe not. No, because these, like I said, remind me for some reason like of the 50s or 60s, and these other ones don't. So it's just a matter of what kind of, you know, excites you, okay? What you like. So it could be, of course I already put that on the inside, but there's nothing that says, well, no, I can't flip it over, but I could use that on a different card. So what if I were to, I don't want to put it down just yet. Oh, and then I have this fabric I kind of forgot about too. So I could take just a little bit of that fabric, and where are my fabric scissors? Oh, right here. Okay, I could just take a little bit of that, and the other thing that I sometimes do is I tear it instead of cutting it all the way. So I'll tear it there, and then I'll cut it. And I'm just taking a little bit of it. So this little piece that I bought as a remnant someplace could last me for years. It could absolutely last me for years. And then this is like the kind of the finished edge, the salvage edge, is that what they call it? I don't know. I used to be a bit of a sewer, but I'm really not so much anymore. I sew on paper now sometimes, which people think is strange, but sometimes for my journals I sew things in them. And I don't mind if there's stuff like that. In fact, sometimes I peel it off on purpose to make it kind of shreddy. So I could use that. I could put that at the bottom. I could put that. All right, but now I think I want to make this a little bit smaller. So you know what I'm going to do this time? I'm going to go in the other direction and not have any of that white showing. Just to kind of show you that there's two different ways to do it. Because I think I want this, but I want it smaller. And I just use both of my thumbs so that I have some control over it. I'm not just ripping it, because I do want it to have some kind of shape. And if I just rip it, it could end up looking like who knows what. So this gives me some control over what it looks like. So then that could go there. This could go on the bottom. And I think I actually kind of like the lantern for this one. All right, so what do you think? You know, again, it may not be your thing, I understand, but I just thought I would show you something different. So as it turned out, I ended up not using this and not using this, but I could certainly make more cards and do that. So now, sometimes for some of these things with fabric, I don't always use the Stampin' Up! Glue. I'll tell you that. Sometimes I use some other things because sometimes the Stampin' Up! Glue doesn't do it great, and it's not meant for fabric. It's a paper glue, so it's not meant for it. And I did have another glue out here just the other day for something I was doing for a project. And I don't see it anymore. Okay, there is something else here I think I could use. It doesn't necessarily say that it's good on fabrics, but I think it would work. Alright, so we're going to put that there. And then I could roll that and actually glue it down, but I think I kind of like it. In fact, I might even put a little more glue here and just not have that be quite as rolled over. I want it to be obvious that I did it on purpose, though, not that I'm giving someone a defective card. Okay. And then we'll put this down here, and that should be fine because we're putting other stuff on top of it, and I'm not worrying about gluing the whole thing down, just the center. So we'll put that in the center. And then, well, maybe I want a little more glue on this half, this piece. Okay, and then that's going to go over that. And then this is going to go here. I kind of don't like that there. I wish I had cut that out. I wonder, might be able to color that in with maybe even a colored pencil in the Mossy Meadow, just so it kind of blends in with that background a little bit. And then this can go here. And it should still fit in the envelope. I definitely could have made it higher up. I might still be able to move it because I don't know. Well, actually, that glue is working better than anticipated on the fabric. So I'm just going to put a little more glue here and just move that up a tiny bit. And then put that there. And since we're not, 100% sure about the glue, although it looks like it's working, I could certainly put that on top of it and just leave that for a little while, or just press it a little bit. Now I've got this that I want to put in there. I don't mind some floppiness, I just don't want a ton of floppiness. And maybe couple of little dots of glue on a couple of these more solid spots here, just so that this isn't flying all over the place. I can see them now, but I'm pretty sure they'll dry clear, so that shouldn't matter. And then this can go inside. Oh wait, before I put it inside, maybe stamp a greeting on it. That might be nice. Or maybe put one of these on there. Oh, well, no, I think I'd rather stamp something. I got out Real Red, not Cherry Cobbler. Okay, let's try Cherry Cobbler. I think I was discovering that my Cherry Cobbler needed some re-inking, so I hope it will cooperate. The Peaceful Season stamps that I like a lot, and that's the one that comes with the Peaceful Trees in a suite. All right, so for me, I like this. I don't know if I pointed this out before. A lot of people have commented on it, and they do like it a lot. So very often there are sentiments that say things like from our home to yours, or from our family to you, or from us to you. But sometimes there is no us. If I'm sending a Christmas card right now, my children are too old for me to be including them in my Christmas cards. They're on their own. So I like that they have this one this year that says from my home to yours instead of from our home. It kind of recognizes the fact that there are single people out there who send Christmas cards, right? So I thought that was pretty cool, and kudos to whoever thought that up. And especially if you are recently widowed, which I'm not, but if you're recently widowed, I think you might be kind of hypersensitive to something like that. Maybe not, I don't know. So I just think it's kind of a cool thing that somebody came up with, and it certainly didn't cost anything to put that sentiment, nope, that won't work, to put that extra sentiment on there. So I hope they continue to do that. Right, let's put that down so I don't get it all wiggly wonky. All right, and then get that out of the way before I get ink. There goes my thumb. All right. Yeah, it is a little light. And I could overlap it a little bit, but then there's the black part. Maybe I don't want to do that. So how about right here? Again, everybody tends to think that the sentiment needs to go smack in the middle of the card, and I'm really getting away from that. Okay, so that's kind of light. It's almost pinkish, but nobody will know the difference but me. That definitely needs some serious re-inking. All right, so now we can put this on the inside. And remember that your blends, I did color that with Lemon Lolly. I stamped this is in black, but then I put some bronze on it to kind of make it look kind of rusty. And then I stamped the candle in red. And dabbed a little yellow and a little blue on it because the flame is kind of blue, sort of in the middle. And then I took the Lemon Lolly on the blending brush and just sort of added a little glow to the inside of the lantern. I'm having taco salad for dinner tonight. I was kind of in the mood. Tacos are messy, and even when they had tacos at school when I was teaching, I would always get a salad and then get the tacos and break it up into my salad, and I really like that. So I bought some Tostita Scoops chips instead of taco shells, and I bought some taco seasoning and some ground turkey and a bag of salad, which is kind of cheating, but whatever. And so I'm having taco salad for my next few meals. I try to prep my food like once a week, usually on a Sunday, but somehow I ran out of last week's dinner yesterday. Okay, so there we go. So we have a definitely kind of a grungy vintage, but when I say grungy, I mean it's not dirty looking, it's not nasty, you know what I'm saying, but it's just not typical. It's not as light and airy and modern looking. I'm just going to put those corners down too because I'm thinking on the way in or out of an envelope there, that could be a problem. And then just for a few minutes, I'll put that down on it. But you can do the same layering effect not using all of this stuff. You can do the same layering effect using some of our current Stampin' Up! Ribbon. Stampin' Up! Used to have fabric. I kind of wish they'd bring it back, but they haven't. Using just cardstock and the Designer Series paper. We have Designer Series paper that looks like wood, and over the years we've actually had quite a few Designer Series papers, at least one or two in the pack that looked like some type of fabric. We have one that looks like tweed. So you could do the same type of thing without grunging it up, without roughing up the edges, without distressing the edges with ink. You could do the same kind of thing, but by layering it, it just gives it a much richer effect, in my opinion. Okay, so whether you do grungy layers or vintage layers or you do just regular layers, I think they really do help and they really do make a difference. All right, so I'm just going to show you the one card. Normally, I would say that I would play and make a couple more and post pictures, but I'm just crazy busy this week. If you live locally, Angel's Attic is having a special sale tomorrow for children. I don't have too much information on it. I just know that I'm working there with a friend of mine. We're both working. And they're going to have special pricing. And I'm guessing that maybe they put some more items in the store that kids would be able to afford to buy for Christmas for parents. So I'm not sure about the whole thing, to tell you the truth. But Angel's Attic is open tomorrow from 10 until... well, I don't know, because it's Sunday, and we're never open on Sunday. So that's a darn good question. I'm not sure now that I've told you all about it. Again, if you live local, Angel's Attic is a charity thrift store that supports Laurel House, which is a comfort care hospice home here in Newark. And it's really a beautiful store. It has lots of nice things. And they do have a Facebook page. That's just Angel's Attic. And then there's the website, which is Laurel House. I'm looking right now on Facebook on my iPad to see what they say about it. And also, they're always looking for volunteers, because I think the other day there was only one person signed up for this. I can't get my cursor to appear in the search thing. That's really weird. Huh. Okay, well, that's strange to say the least. Happy birthday to my cousin Ellen. Her name just popped up. I don't know what's going on with this. It's not letting me search. Well, that's just bizarre. Maybe it will. No, it's not letting me. Okay. That's weird. So, let's see. Well, I hope they didn't cancel it. I did see it listed. Huh. I know they're having a big sale on dishes. They get lots of donated dishes. If you know anybody who likes the Franciscan pattern, they've got a huge set of that, I guess. No, I'm not seeing it. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. Small Business Saturday, that was today, open 10 to 2. There's nothing at all listed about tomorrow, so I'm honestly not sure to make of that. They might have canceled it for some reason, but I don't know why. Well, I might be wrong. I'll do a little research and see if I can find out, especially if they canceled it. Then that means I'm not working tomorrow, so I really need to know whether I am or I'm not. Okay, I'll add something in the comments or post something here if they are having it. At this point, I guess I would assume that they are not, because I can't find it. Oh, wait. Okay, here, 5 days ago, she posted, join us this Sunday, Kids Shopping Day, Sunday, December 1st, noon to 2. Calling all kids, it's your time to shop. Okay, so I guess it is on. They just didn't put a reminder. Alrighty, so noon to 2. Well, that's good to know, because I was planning on showing up at 10 in the morning, which is my usual time. So I get to sleep in a little bit tomorrow. That'll be nice. All right, thank you again for joining me, whether you're with me live or on the replay. I appreciate you very much. So there we go. There's our card. I have to figure out who to send that to, because I have some friends who will appreciate that and some friends who wouldn't appreciate it so much. All right, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Hey, Vicki, how are you? I just noticed you were on here.